Yeah, it's a lot I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. Okay, I think we can be doing more important things than exploring space.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask questions to make sure we understand what implications this has.
Hmm.
So, do you believe that we should defund NASA?
No.
Okay. But your claim is that, all things being equal, you'd rather we didn't spend so much money on space exploration.
If it was given as much money as other government organizations.
Okay. So like if it came down to it and we needed money for a social program and like we've already cut everything else and it's just NASA and Medicaid,
Oh yeah, NASA.
you'd rather we move money from NASA to Medicaid.
Right.
Okay, okay. All right. So what about private people who have personal interests in it and they spend their own money?
People could spend their money on whatever.
Okay. Okay. So when you say that it's so would you say that there's benefits to exploring space?
Um, I I'm I'm sure there are benefits from exploring space, but I feel like it's not the most important thing we can be doing right now.
Okay, so if I had to distill your message, so I don't know if you can see it, but there's a Zoom chat. You might have to click a button to open it
Yeah, I got
up.
it, I got it.
Um, so if we had to distill your claim into one sentence, maybe it would be uh, people are people are more focused on space exploration than in other people's well-being. Like they shouldn't focus so much time and effort on space. They
I
should
feel like that's
focus.
like Elon Musk, but I don't know about people besides that. I feel like otherwise,
Uh huh.
no.
Okay. Okay. So you wouldn't go so far as to say, well, or would you? Space is a waste of time.
Yeah, what spaces?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's. I think that's a good. Space is a waste of time.
All right.
Okay. Space is a waste of time. So there's a bunch of things that humans could be working on, right? Different goals. And,
Hmm.
and and what I'm hearing you say is that focusing on space exploration should be not priority.
Yes.
Okay. Can you give me an example of something that should be priority?
Um, our elections, people that are out of work, our employment numbers because of COVID,
Okay.
like,
So democracy, um, unemployment,
mm,
any other things that maybe you'd put at the top of the list?
housing for people,
Mm-hmm.
making sure people aren't in poverty, stuff like that.
Okay. Sounds like sounds like fairness and the well-being of others are the values that maybe underlie those
Yeah.
things.
Also, like climate change.
Okay, climate change. So I'm gonna write those down. Democracy, fair elections, um,
So,
health and well.
admittedly, one thing that we could be doing in space right now is finding a planet to live on. That'd be useful.
Okay, so if we colonized another planet,
Hmm.
you'd actually say space wasn't a waste of time
Well,
after all.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, okay. All right. There's a lot of interesting stuff to unpack here. So why would the goal of colonizing another planet be worth time and money, but what we're doing now is not?
I guess
What? What?
I'm
Sorry.
saying it because I feel like our planet I don't know how much more time we have if we don't change things about like everything being flooded. or places becoming too hot to live in.
Right, climate change. I'm going to add that to the list. So you're worried about the state of affairs on Earth,
Yeah.
both
And
in
if
terms of. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Both in terms of
Just to try to summarize what I'm hearing, both in terms of things like climate change and the environment and like the physical state of the Earth, but also in terms of how people are faring in their personal lives.
hmm
Like both of those things seem like imminent problems.
hmm
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you're saying that despite space being a thing to explore, like unless it addresses those problems, it's not priority because these things are imminent problems.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. So how confident are you that space exploration should be deprioritized as a society?
50%.
Okay, 50%. 50%. So zero would be right. You're actually in favor of space exploration, and you're really convinced that it's a good thing to do.
hmm
100 would be you're totally against it. You know without a doubt that it's a waste of time. You're right in the middle at 50%.
hmm
Okay, so you're kind of neutral. I mean, between these two extremes.
I am neutral for my personal belief versus what the government should actually do.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Because I think like space is a place of time, but like, I don't know everything, so I could be wrong.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions to try to push back on this belief. I think we've established what it is, and you don't seem super dogmatic about it.
No.
So, so hopefully we'll find things that will move you maybe up and down the scale. That's the idea, to see like
Yeah.
what would change your mind. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, um, yeah, because we actually have an example already, which is that if you found out that, uh, let's just, for the sake of conversation, let's call it, you know, space work,
Okay.
right? The stuff that we're talking about, stuff in space,
Okay.
space work. Okay. So it sounds like I heard you say that if you found out that space work led to colonization of another planet, that actually you'd move down that scale
hmm
because you'd think actually maybe this is a way that we could solve the problems that matter to you.
hmm
Okay, so we've got a great example of something that would move you down the scale. What would be an example of something that would move you up the scale? It would make you more confident that space is a waste of time.
More confident that space is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Um, if it didn't do anything to benefit people who are living now
Okay.
or in the future.
If you went and looked for, let's say, the scientific discoveries or something like that came out of space exploration, and you were unconvinced that these things were useful,
hmm
is that kind of where you're coming from?
Yeah.
Okay, so you go look at a list of things that came out of space exploration, and you say these aren't appropriate, or these aren't relevant to democracy, health and well-being, and climate change. You'd actually become more convinced that space is a waste of time.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like you're free to move up and down the scale,
hmm
which is great. I mean, I think. Um,
We'll see what the commoners say.
okay. Um, so let's see. So what if you imagine someone who is in favor of space exploration? What do you think their best argument might be. What can you imagine a supporter of space saying against your claim space is a waste of time?
Um, maybe that uh we found water on a planet and it's not just evidence that there used to be water, but it's evidence that there can like be water embedded like deeper somehow or something like that.
Okay.
Like a like there's water like it's a place where people could live because there's actually some running source of water somewhere
Okay.
because
So
of evidence
this,
we found.
just to make sure I understand, this fits in with your idea of colonization of other planets.
Yes.
Is there anything other than colonization of other planets that might make you less confident in this belief? That might make you
Um,
more. Yeah, go ahead.
that I'd move up the scale, down
Yeah,
the
that.
scale.
Well, depends on which way you look, but yeah, the idea that that space might not be a waste of time,
If
other
we
than colonization. Sorry.
if we could communicate with other like beings,
Okay, so if we found aliens.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because presumably, and I'm going to make a guess based on what I know about your claim, presumably because those aliens or the knowledge that we get from that might help us with democracy, health and well-being, and climate change.
Yes.
Okay, because really those are your values.
Mm-hmm.
Like having fair elections, having people be healthy,
That works.
and having Earth be a safe place to live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And to learn new languages.
From other aliens.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So exploring other planets and colonizing other planets, right? Because presumably just exploring other planets wouldn't fit these values, right? Like if we explored a barren wasteland of a world that could not support human life,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be pretty confident that that would be a waste of time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So going back to this imaginary other person, this person who's in favor of space exploration, can you imagine what they
Oops.
might say in support of exploration of a planet that would not support human life?
How you got to explore them to find out that they're not
Well,
bringing
that's
your
true.
life.
Yeah.
Though
Until
I,
you.
to which I would argue, I mean, it's not very fair because we haven't explored that many planets.
Uh huh.
But if we kept exploring planets and they kept being barren wastelands, it'd be like, okay, so they're just all like, we can give this up.
Okay.
They're all a waste of time.
Okay. Um, could there be any other? Excuse me. Could there be any other advantages to exploring barren wastelands?
There's like some special space dust that like grows plants super fast. Well, I mean, that couldn't be it. It's a barren wasteland, but like it made you live longer or something. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is maybe we could find resources on those planets that we could bring back to Earth.
Right.
Is that where you're
Yeah.
coming from?
Which I still, maybe that doesn't work with a barren wasteland, but that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So what if we found resources like um, rare minerals that are rare on Earth,
Hmm.
and we found them in excess on an asteroid or on another planet? Do you think that would affect your confidence?
Maybe. Like, I mean, maybe if it put people to work, like mining those resources. Yeah.
Yeah. And then to bring them back to Earth to help the people of Earth.
Right.
Okay. All right. So that might soften you up a bit.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So let's switch gears and try from another angle. Okay. How you have this list of values, things that you're interested, goals, let's say. All right. Democracy, health and well-being, climate change, things like that. Um, do you think everybody has these goals?
No.
Okay. If if you have these goals and we can imagine someone else doesn't have these goals, some person, Bob,
Hmm.
how could you and Bob figure out whether these are good goals?
So you're asking whether the things we want to happen should matter.
I'm asking if you had to sit down with Bob,
Okay.
who
My good
has
friend
his,
Bob,
or maybe your enemy, Bob.
my enemy Bob.
Yeah, because Bob has different goals.
Hmm.
Um, maybe Bob's goals are so direct as to just include space exploration. I don't know. Um, how could you have a conversation with somebody where you talk through what are good goals? Maybe this is a really hard question, but do you see what I'm asking?
Um, I guess it like personal goals or like what we should like make a law.
Personal goals. Yeah.
Because personally, I don't really think it should matter if neither of us are actively hurting somebody.
Okay. Okay. So Bob's goals, maybe they're different than yours, but as long as he's not hurting you directly, then maybe that's okay, and you can just leave him be.
Right.
Um, I think if we go back to the just the very beginning of the conversation, though, I think you recognize that there's a conflict in where we allocate resources as a
Hmm.
society,
Hmm.
right? So I think even if he's not stepping on your toes directly, he's going to want to allocate resources differently.
Hmm.
So maybe that's the question, right? How could you convince somebody who wants to allocate resources differently that they should allocate resources this way? What could you appeal to get someone who's your enemy on your side?
If we had a more educated and happier workforce, they could help you with your space exploration.
Hmm. Okay, that's interesting. So if we focus, so it's don't let me put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're saying you start by acknowledging his values and saying,
Hmm.
I hear that that's what you've got. And you can accomplish those goals if you first accomplish these goals, A, B, your A, B, and C.
Hmm.
Okay, that's good. I like that. Okay. And so, in a way, you've tried to appeal to his interests, and you're saying you can still accomplish your goals, and maybe you can do a better job if you start by accomplishing these goals.
Hmm.
Okay. All right, cool. Um, do you think that there is a possibility? Do you think it's possible that in accomplishing that one way of accomplishing your goals might include space exploration? Are there
It's
are there
possible.
are there benefits we could get that might help these goals?
It's possible, yeah.
Can you think of any specifically, other than like actually colonizing another planet
Or finding
or
resources.
finding resources?
Um,
You mentioned earlier putting people to work.
yeah. I thought we weren't including that.
Well,
Anything that I said previously, I thought it wasn't being included.
uh, there's no rules. I'm
Okay.
just we let's just make a list.
Okay.
So some of the things that might fit include finding another planet to colonize, finding resources, um, and putting people to work.
Hmm.
Can you think of any others that might further your goals?
Mm, maybe. No.
Okay. All right. I'm going to suggest one.
All right.
All right. And I'm not saying this is the case. I'm asking you your opinion. I've heard people say that space exploration results in um, like basic scientific discoveries, like understanding physics better, understanding chemistry better. Do you think that that might lead to improvements here on Earth for the well-being of people?
I mean, yes and no. I
Okay.
feel like, I mean, maybe I'm a little too America focused, but I feel like most of us don't give a shit about science, and I'm not sure how useful that would be for for uh for us.
Okay.
But for the world, yeah, I feel like, the people that actually cared and would actually use that to be to help other discoveries, it would matter.
Okay. So I have a thought experiment,
Hmm.
and you've already admitted to so many things that would change your mind. I'm just interested in trying to figure out some more. Um, so let's imagine, and I'm not saying this is the case, but let's imagine that that we found out that some of the research that they did on the International Space Station, maybe that they're doing now. Let's say we found out that some of that research improves the yield of farming on Earth.
Hmm.
If you found that out, would that fit in your idea of helping people on Earth?
Yes and no.
Okay. Help me unpack that.
Um, from what I've heard about farming, it's not really that we have an issue with growing food for people. It's just we have a lot of waste and it's not feasible to get food out to people. But, just in a vacuum, yeah, it'd be beneficial to just have more yield from
Okay.
growing food.
So I don't know. I'm not a space expert. Um, but let's imagine something really specific. Let's imagine that after all, the stuff in space, right? They're in this tiny little capsule, and everything's really hard. Like it's hard to get resources in the vacuum of space. So if you found out that some of the research that happened on the International Space Station actually improved um, the ability for to to deal with waste, to deal with the waste of food products, or what do they call it? Composting or something like that. Could you imagine that as being something that might fit into your goals?
Yeah.
Okay. Because what I heard you say is that actually, even though it helps the yield of crops, maybe you're not convinced that the yield is really all that important.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking maybe there's something else that is more important to you that they could find out.
Hmm.
And if you found that out, you'd be willing to move along the scale.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like you're really free to move on this belief.
Yeah. It's a lot I don't know.
Yeah,
Could be wrong.
yeah. Can you imagine finding out that actually, let's say we made farming more efficient, right? Even though I hear that you believe that it's not the efficiency that's the problem.
Hmm.
Do you think you could be wrong about that?
I could be wrong about that.
Okay. Do you think that there is a place for people who have other priorities?
For climate change, maybe not, but for the rest of it, I think there is space. No pun intended.
Space for space.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. I think that's a good place to stop.